I get the impression from what people say that many people basically think that this kind of work is crazy. We have this notion what you need to do is buy all the necessary equipment to make your labor easier. There are all kinds of power-driven tools that allow you to do the work in half the time. The problem is, it's never ending. It's like everything in the mundane world. We're just spending all our time trying to develop a perpetual motion machine. Don't know if you've ever heard about a perpetual motion machine, but it's kind of a cliche. Some old retired guy in his workshop trying to discover free energy, make a machine that works perpetually with no input of effort. But it's not like that. As we know, perpetual motion is an impossibility. Really, the modern world is a self-perpetuating myth. What I mean by that is we think that we're making our lives easier or better. We think we can outsmart the mundane world. If we just get the perfect plan, then we'll make enough profit and then we can retire early. And not only that, retire a millionaire. There's no guarantee these things are going to go right. And it seems what normally happens is people basically burn themselves out. They work all their lives, they put money in the bank, buy a house, buy a boat, buy a car. By the time they're ready to enjoy their retirement, they're finished. Their body's knackered, or they get sick, they get cancer or something like that. I think a lot of this illness is related to people burning themselves out or being stressed. And so many people are on antidepressants, take sleeping pills, take medication to make themselves more productive, be able to work longer hours. It's madness. And there's a big difference between the developed Western world and these undeveloped places, like in Nepal. People in general are a lot happier. They're happier until they start thinking about coming to the West, getting a visa, trying to get to Harvard or something like that. And there's lots of con men out there trying to sell you a dream with promises of getting to the West. And they charge extortionate amounts of money. It's like tens of thousands of dollars for a visa. And one of the Tibetan lamas said something that's so true. He said, well, what's the point in spending like $70,000 to get a visa to come to the West when you could put that money into a business in Nepal and better yourself and better your country? But we've got a crazy way of thinking. So the carpenters there, they all use hand tools. And they do a really good job. It's slower. They also have a shorter working life. In general, the people there have shorter lives. But if your life is shorter but happier, isn't that better? Rather than having a longer life where you spend all your time killing yourself, working 7 days a week, 14 hours a day, and then by the time you're ready to retire, you're too sick and ill, you spend the latter part of your life in a hospital or in a care home, chronically ill. The people who settled these lands hundreds of years ago, they did so with the bare minimum. Hand tools, horses. They didn't have electricity. They worked hard. But I think their lives were less complicated and they were happier. And also the people were more virtuous. Hard work is good for you. It stops you from getting distracted by negative things. Too much spare time isn't good. And another thing that's not good for you is this mindset that's always trying to make more profit, trying to make your work easier and more profitable. This mindset perpetuates your own suffering. This is what causes people to burn themselves out through their life, trying to get more fame, fortune, and success. We frown on subsistence farmers, people who live in third world countries and hew logs with axes. We see them to be backwards and primitive. But I'm not so sure. I mean, it's really difficult, right? If everybody in the West started living in tents in the forest, then our entire economy would collapse. We've got ourselves into a spin, into a loop. Our society is founded on consumption, right? We live in capitalist societies. That's why we're so successful. And people see this to be a good thing. We say it's curing hunger, illness throughout the world. But I'm not so sure that you can say that people are actually better off than they were hundreds of years ago. And not only that, there's no telling what the future holds. Anyway, like I said, it's like trying to develop a perpetual motion machine. For every new layer you add on, then something else has to be compensated for. We may be finding cures for old diseases, but at the same time, there are many new diseases that are coming along. Many of these new diseases and illnesses are associated with the way we live in crowded, busy cities. Stress-related, autoimmune-related. My cousin thought I was crazy. When I showed her what I was doing, she said, "Oh, how terrible. That's such hard work." Hard work is good for you. Studying is good for you. Taking your time is good for you. I mean, I don't know what I'll be able to accomplish here in the next 10 years. I reckon I've got about 10 years left. Not till I die. About 10 years where I can still go for it. I'll still have my strength, while I'm still relatively fit. I mean, there's no guarantee, right? I could get sick. I could get cancer or something like that. And then be finished. So I've got to think about a long-term plan. What I can accomplish in 5 years. In 10 years. At the moment, I'm looking after my parents, right? There's very little I can do. It's very, very slow. But that isn't going to go on forever. No one lives forever. Once I've done everything I can, then I'll be able to invest more time here. And for me, the important thing is that this place develops organically and isn't dependent on the machinations of the modern world. Of course, to some degree, we've got no choice. We can't do without it, right? I mean, I could give up the chainsaws and just get a broad axe, do everything by hand. But I tell you what, I won't last long. If I had a community here of people working together, then we could do that. There are places where people live as they did hundreds of years ago in the forest. But you need manpower. And so I have to compensate. But I'm happy and I'm willing to do that. The world has gone crazy, and it's not slowing down. Capitalism is based on growth economies. They have to grow. And so it's dependent upon people's desire. And what the Buddha taught was that this desire, this craving, is actually the source of our suffering. So why do I say that? Well, basically, for our markets to grow, people have to buy stuff. And so we have to keep developing new products, new snazzy, attractive, glitzy, high-tech equipment, things to keep people's interest in, something to get their desire going. Whether it's drugs, iPhones, sports, games, anything, it has to progress, it has to accelerate. Otherwise, this capitalistic machine runs out of steam, will ground to a halt. So it's almost as if we can't get off. It's like we're on a train, it's going so fast, we just can't jump off. It's going faster and faster. And here's another thing. Let's say we decided that we were going to be an organic, natural country like Canada, and we'd give up on all kind of modern development. Of course, we'd still study medicine, those sorts of things. We'd try to slow down the wheels of development. Well, that's not going to work in the long run, because some other country is just going to take us over. We'll lose our freedom. This is what we call the mundane world. This is what we call samsara. So what the masters of the past said is that samsara doesn't stop until you drop the whole thing. And so for a spiritual practitioner, that's what you need to do. You just need to drop it. Check out. Get off the wagon. Leave the world to the world. Leave the madness to crazy people. There's a problem. Until you gain actual accomplishment, then you're still going to be susceptible to suffering in samsara. And the problem is we don't have special attainments. Here's the thing. Ultimately, samsara is not something that can be fixed. Now, I made this mistake previously when I was young. I was an idealist. I felt like you could change the world through music. I saw there were musicians, and they sang about alternatives. They sang about how crazy the world was, and how our societies were headed in the wrong direction. And I believed that you could change the world in this way. But that was very naive. Actually, the music industry is incredibly worldly. Also, you can't fix the world through technology. We try. For example, the development of nuclear energy was an attempt to solve the world's problems. But we all know that that didn't work. The Buddha taught the solution. The Buddha taught the theory of samsara and the theory of nirvana. The theory of samsara tells us why we suffer. And according to the Buddha, the reason why we suffer is because we have craving. Now, of course, this craving is based on something more fundamental, and that is self-clinging. It's a belief in a self, or dualistic thinking. But basically, as long as we have this thirst, this craving, then we're going to get into trouble. And because of that, then in order to find happiness, we need to abandon our craving. And this is where the theory of nirvana comes in. So how do we achieve this state of peace and happiness? Well, it's the Eightfold Noble Path. Now, there isn't time to go into all the aspects of the Eightfold Noble Path. I mean, view is a very important part of it. But ultimately, what we need to do through this Eightfold Noble Path is develop what's called wisdom. And to reside in that. And that's what's called meditation. But it's not easy. I don't talk a lot about the theory of nirvana because basically it's beyond us. We have to start with aspiration. And then, having that aspiration, what we need to do is we have to try our best to practice virtue, to be kind, loving people. The foundation of all spiritual practice is altruism. That's it. And if everybody had altruism, if everyone had an altruistic way of thinking, then the world would be a much better place. Anyway, I better finish my lunch. I've got a lot to do before I go. I've got to split some wood. And I must catch the last ferry back. I have to look after my parents. I have to say, it's nice having a break here. It's very difficult watching someone you love deteriorate and to experience suffering, the suffering of aging and sickness. I mean, we all go through it. But when you come to the end of your life, the human condition, the predicament we're in, becomes so much more intense. There's no escaping it. And because of that, then there is no time to lose. So my suggestion to you is, don't waste your time. But don't convince yourself you're Superman. For example, you got to eat, you got to sleep, you have to rest. Don't just try to act like Milarepa. We're not able to go off into the mountain, live in a cave with no food. We need to eat. We need to sleep. We need medicine. You have to take a break from time to time. But whatever you do, try to make your life meaningful. Yeah? You can transform whatever you do into something meaningful. It all depends upon the motivation. For example, if you get drunk just to get your kicks, that's a very selfish thing. It doesn't help you and it doesn't help others. But at the same time, going out with your friends and having a drink isn't necessarily a negative thing. Human interaction is important. And if you act with moderation, then that's okay as well. Anyway, you've got to progress slowly. Take it one step at a time. Try to make your life meaningful. And don't waste your energy on dead ends and meaningless activities. We're all in the same boat. Eventually, we have to achieve awakening. And it's my sincere wish that you should find happiness and well-being and progress swiftly on the spiritual path to final awakening and liberation from samsara. And so in order to help you on that journey, then I'm willing to spend some of my time and energy sharing what I've learned studying at the feet of an authentic and experienced Dharma practitioner. So anyway, I better get going. See you later.